What you doing, Diggletdreamers? You got Mathers back with more CDL content, and this time it's my week 3 match versus Aeriodon. If you want to check out the team builder where I kind of go over the team that I brought as well as what I was kind of afraid of for him to bring, you can check that out at the top right of the video screen now. I'll put a little note there for you. Go ahead and click that. But if you don't care, that's fine too. So biggest threats, I think, looking at his team, I knew that Mewmore was going to be a huge threat to me, so I knew that thing was coming. I was also very scared of the Heliolisk, but other than that, I'm kind of glad he didn't bring a few things. Like the Milotic didn't show up, which is pretty great. I was definitely really prepared for that, which is kind of like I wish I hadn't prepared for that as much as I did, but it's going to end up working out for me in some ways. But this is a really intense battle. Aeriodon is a very, very competent battler, and if you want to check out any of his old replays, I do go over some of them in the team builder, so again, check that out. But I was very nervous going into this battle. It was I knew it was going to be intense. Yeah. So I'll put it on slow. I'll get into it. Basically, my biggest threat to his team was going to be my Nidoqueen. I had Thunderbolt on it specifically for Milotic, but that ends up working out pretty well for me for his Aerodactyl as well. So basically, I just click like Earth Power and Thunderbolt, and it does a heck of a lot to his entire team. Because the only Pokemon that aren't like weak to one of those moves aren't gonna enjoy taking it, and that's Forretress, which takes like a minimum like 70% from Earth Power, and Cofagrigus is also going to take a good amount of damage as long as it's not like max special defense. But I think even at that point, it's not going to really enjoy taking it because Cofagrigus is much more physically defensive. So I have the Stealth Rock in here. I want to try to get those up because getting Stealth Rock up would basically put everything in range of a potential Lycanroc sweep, and that's kind of the game plan I'm going for. I have a Memento on my Whimsicott so that I can give Lycanroc a setup opportunity. And other than that, Golisopod, of course, puts in a lot of damage with First Impression. I have Sucker Punch on there because I think I could potentially, if I don't knock out like the Heliolisk with a First Impression, I can then potentially catch it with a Sucker Punch, thinking that, because he probably would think that I only have like Aqua Jet as my other priority, which it's of course immune to with Dry Skin. That could also catch something like Aerodactyl as well. Florges is also here just to take on things like Heliolisk and Cofagrigus. And Vikavolt, also a very big offensive threat, able to do a lot of damage here. Just click like Thunderbolt, Bug Buzz, and it does a lot. I also have Hidden Power Fire specifically for the Forretress, and I also have Hidden Power Fire on my Whimsicott for that reason too. But I mean, looking at his team, Mewmore, like, I do not switch into that Pokemon. If it can just click Flare Blitz basically for free, and it's gonna knock something out. The only thing I can hope for is that he clicks something other than Flare Blitz, and like if he clicks like Wild Charge, Super Power, something like that, then obviously most of my Pokemon can take hits like that. The Cofagrigus, of course, is there. I'm not really worried about this thing. Like, it's definitely bulky Pokemon, but I have a lot of very strong special attackers that I can use to my advantage there. Aerodactyl, definitely a big threat, outspeeds my whole team because I don't have anything scarfed. But obviously Accelerock is there to take that thing on. I have Aqua Jet as well, so it's not a big threat. Forretress is there with the Rapid Spin and potential hazard support. I can obviously have a Nidoqueen to deal with that. I have Hidden Power Fire on 2 Pokemon for that thing. And then Heliolisk is here as well. Gets pretty close to knocked out by a First Impression, takes about half from a neutral Accelerock, and gets close to knocked out by a +2 Accelerock. And then of course Florges, Vikavolt, Whimsicott, and Nidoqueen can come in on certain moves. So, okay. I want to go ahead and get into it. So I decided, of course, to lead Nidoqueen because it's a big offensive threat to his side of the field, and it actually works out pretty well for me as he does go into Drapion. I think about getting the Stealth Rock up, but if I can just knock out that Drapion, that'd be pretty big, and he does make the good play there and goes into his Aerodactyl. But I'm able to live the Earthquake and knock out his thing with a Thunderbolt. So that's a big, fast threat on his side of the field and knocked out. I don't really know what he was thinking there, because I don't have any defensive investment at all. So there's no way Earthquake would have knocked me out. And he must have, maybe he didn't expect me to have Thunderbolt, but I either got up the Stealth Rock or knocked him out with Thunderbolt there. And then he decides to go back in Drapion, because obviously now my Nidoqueen is in range of this thing and is outsped by it. So I just go into Vikavolt. I don't really have much to switch into this thing. I can take a few hits with my Vikavolt, and in this moment I thought so long about just clicking Thunderbolt, because I could obviously live another hit. I could live a Poison Jab. I also dodge an Earthquake. Aqua Tail wouldn't do much, and Poison Jab. Did I say Poison Jab? And Knockoff wouldn't do as much because it already knocked off my item. And if I had clicked Thunderbolt there, it would have done a lot of damage to Drapion, and obviously would have done a lot of damage to what he ended up going into. But I did decide to click Roost instead. So unfortunately now I am just trapped in here, and yeah, he's a good Flare Blitz. I don't have anything to switch into this beast, so he just has to take a lot of recoil there. And now at this point I am free to go into my Nidoqueen. This can outspeed this thing as long as it's not some kind of Choice Scarf set, and of course Nidoqueen is a big threat. He doesn't really, now that his Aerodactyl is gone, he has basically nothing to switch into Earth Power, so I feel like I'm in a pretty good position. But he reveals the Sucker Punch, knocking out my Nidoqueen, which I was not expecting. Very, very good prep. So now I'm in a very rough position. I decided to go in my Golisopod just to kind of bluff, that I could knock him out with a Water type move, and because I couldn't have. But I do go for the Aqua Jet just to try to do as much damage as possible. Fortress obviously eats it up. I just go for a Spike there because it's, damage. It reveals the counter, which scares me. So I decided to go Whimsicott because I do still have that Hidden Power Fire. As he goes for the Stealth Rock, I had a feeling he wasn't going to go for Gyro Ball there, as he actually makes a ballsy play and goes into the Emboar as I Hidden Power Fire, and now he's inside again. I do have Moonblast obviously, but it's not going to be able to knock him out, and I don't, especially with the Stealth Rock up, what do I have for this thing? So I just decided, give me some Moonblast damage, and the Emboar knocks me out, but then knocks itself out with the recoil. So at least it's gone. And now I'm like, okay, what do I do now? Go into Golisopod, because I can hit the Drapion and the Heliolisk for a lot of damage, as it does go into this Fortress. Pretty good play. I decided just first impression regardless, get a good, well, not that good, but a chunk of damage, as it does counter and it activates my emergency exit. So I go into Florges because I don't want to go into Lycanroc, because obviously Lycanroc can get knocked out by a Gyro Ball, and I don't really, the only moves I have, Accelerock, Crunch with Z, Darkinium Z, and Drill Run. So once it gets to a lower range, Drill Run could knock it out, but at this point there's no way. Like I have to get like a Swords Dance for it to really put in any work. So I go into Florges because I can at least Moonblast for a decent amount of damage, as he just goes for the Gyro Ball, which does 2-hit KO. And at this point I don't know what to do. I can't switch in. I gotta just keep attacking, and I get a good amount of damage. He reveals that he actually has the Guave Berry, so it heals a lot, but just Rapid Spins there, so it doesn't knock me out. So I get to go for another Moonblast, and this time I actually get a crit, which is pretty big, because a nice 40%, 39.9%, and then he does knock me out with a Gyro Ball. So now he's in range of a Drill Run from my Lycanroc, so I can go into that. I do knock out his Foragers with the Drill Run. Like that was a minimum roll, like there's no way that wouldn't have been knocked out. And he decides to go in the Cofagrigus. Solid play, because physically defensive Pokemon, Cofagrigus should be able to take this on. I decide that this is my one chance, basically, and I go for the Swords Dance. He could go for Will-O-Wisp, he could go for anything, goes for the Shadow Ball, doesn't knock me out, so I'm still at a pretty good amount of health, and I have my Z move, so I go for it, and I get a crit, which I was super worried about, as you'll probably see in the chat in just a minute. I was very apologetic because I did not want that to be the way that I went. I was holding, I've had the calcs up the whole time, If it was max physically defensive, that crit definitely mattered, but as I found out from Aeriodon, it was not max HP, max defense. It was some other spread. So he confirmed that it would have knocked out without the crit regardless. So thankfully that crit does not matter. And now I'm in a pretty, yeah, you can see in the chat here I had a very important discussion, but now I'm in a very good position. He goes, I'm worried about a Scarf, obviously. I think a Scarf Drapion would actually have basically won the game here, because it would have outsped this and knocked it out. I definitely don't knock this out, even with a +2 Accelerock. I definitely need to go for Drill Run if I'm going to knock this thing out. But it ends up not being Scarf, so I'm able to knock him out. And just because of how long it took him to go into that thing, I had a feeling it wasn't going to be Scarf, so I felt somewhat confident going for the Drill Run. And then he goes into his last Pokemon, Heliolisk, and I can go for the Accelerock because it has a pretty good chance to knock him out, but it doesn't. As I actually found out, he did have a good amount of HP on his spread, so he was definitely able to live that. But I have Golisopod in the back to go for the first impression and finish off the game. So, oh man, that was a very intense battle, and I had a long conversation with Aeriodon talking about different stuff. Found out that Heliolisk was Scarf, and he had Red Card on Drapion, which would have been pretty interesting because so the Red Card, apparently it only activates if you don't get knocked out. We actually found out right here. So if the holder survives a hit, the attack is forced to switch out. But because I knocked him out, it obviously didn't activate, so didn't get to show off that interesting item. I think if it had knocked me, if I had gone for Accelerock or something, it would have done a pretty good chunk, and then forced me out into Golisopod, which it probably would have knocked out, and then I actually could have won, I think. But fortunately, the Drill Run was the right play, and then Accelerock was, even though it wasn't able to knock out Heliolisk, it was able to put it in range of Golisopod. And very, very intense match, very good game, and I'm very excited to see what happens in the next time I fight Aeriodon, because I'm hoping that we make it to the finals together and duke it out again. It's going to be very intense. Yeah, so if you guys enjoyed that battle as much as I did, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe, hit the bell so you can see when the next CDL stuff is going to come out. It should probably be next Sunday though, so if you don't really care about subscribing, you can just come back next weekend. Thank you guys for watching, and keep dreaming. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.